All right, so in latest coverage and latest news in the world of Crazy Town, somewhere out there is a person who is a man who wants to be a woman.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
Who has savagely killed a baby and is now looking to have their gender transition surgeries paid for by the government system and by the jail system. Now, I don't want to jump scare you, but very quickly, if you can see on your screen, if you're listening, I'll describe this to you. But if you're watching, I'm warning you before. I'm going to put something on the screen, and it's very disturbing. Okay, so just bear with me. Okay, let's take a look.
What the hell is even that?
I warned you. It's quite the jump scare. If you're not watching and you can't see, it is a very overweight man who wants to be a woman with some very interesting facial tattoos, some slapped on paint eyebrows, and some eyeballs that are looking who knows where, cross-eyed beyond belief. Got one lazy eye looking to the right and one eye looking into your soul. With that being said, with that being shown, like I said, I apologize in the front end.
How dare you?
For the jump scare. However, the name of this person is Johnathan Richardson. Now I want to read an article from the New York Post. The headline is, "Judge orders taxpayers to foot the gender surgery bill of a savage baby killer who wants to identify as a Muslim woman." Let's work our way through this and basically take a look at this. A federal judge has ruled that it would be unconstitutional. Okay, this is a constitutional issue. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and all the delegates in Philadelphia, this is a constitutional issue that they needed to address, was that man right there. It was unconstitutional. Okay, so they're whipping out the Constitution on this one. Federal judge has ruled that it would be unconstitutional for an Indiana prison to deny a transgender inmate the sex reassignment surgery following the inmate's lawsuit against the facility. Our very well-known buddies, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, sued the Indiana Department of Corrections last year on behalf of the transgender inmate Johnathan Richardson, also known as Adam Cordialon. Obviously, that's their fake name, their woman name. This person was convicted of strangling their 11-month-old stepdaughter to death in 2001. Indiana law prohibits the Department of Corrections from using taxpayer dollars to fund sex reassignment surgeries for inmates. However, the ACLU argues in the lawsuit filed on August 28, 2023, that the law is a violation of the Eighth Amendment, a prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. That is the weakest argument, most pathetic argument I've ever heard. And the ACLU is a weak, pathetic organization. But this idea that, this person that strangled and murdered their 11-month-old stepdaughter, somehow it is cruel and unusual to make them live as what they are, a man, amongst other men in the prison system, and not spend all this thousands of dollars on this surgery on the taxpayer's dime. The surgery for Richardson, who is serving out a 55-year prison sentence for reckless homicide, is a medical necessity, according to the ACLU. Judge Richard Young agreed with the ACLU's claim and ruled in favor of Autumn last week. Johnathan, that's his name. And this is what they're saying. I'm not saying this. This is what the article says. Specifically, Miss Cordialon has shown that her gender dysphoria is a serious medical need, and that despite other treatments defendants have provided her to treat her gender dysphoria, she requires gender-affirming surgery to prevent a risk of serious bodily or psychological harm. In other words, trying to prevent suicide. The Department of Corrections must now take all reasonable actions to ensure Cordialon undergoes sex surgery according to the order. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, a Republican, has said on a post in X that his office is reviewing the judge's decisions, but you can undoubtedly expect our office will appeal this decision, which is very good. An Indiana inmate convicted of murder wants our taxpayers to fund their gender-altering surgery. Rokita said, Hoosiers do not want this. The original ACLU filing says Cordialon was diagnosed in 2020 with gender dysphoria and prescribed female hormones and testosterone blockers, both of which he has consistently taken since that time. Other accommodations provided for the inmate include panties, makeup, and form-fitting clothes. I wonder if we ever stop to think if, maybe this person who is a sick individual, who is someone who is very wicked and evil, and we ever stop to think, okay, they've been in jail all this time, they committed this wicked and evil thing, and maybe, just maybe, it might be the fact that there's something seriously wrong with this person.
That's because you're mentally unstable.
Some serious mental illnesses there, some demonic, possession, whatever it is, whatever route you want to go down. But to think, this person all of a sudden while they're in prison is having these, problems with their mental health and their gender dysphoria. And now we're going to treat that by giving in to basically who they think they are. Personally, I think this is just a slap in the face for anybody who wants to consider themselves a true transgender person. And I think it flies in the face of the argument for transgenderism not being a mental illness. I mean, how can you explain that it's not a mental illness when you have people like this who are sick and wicked who fall into this while being in the prison system? This is a clear testament to it being a mental illness. This person is evil, this person is wicked, and they clearly are not mentally stable. And this is the path they're going down. So it shows that transgenderism and that everything that follows with it is a form of mental instability. But the judge and the ACLU still follow through and they acquiesce to the wishes of this horrible, wicked, evil person. Let's continue with the article. Accordingly, at this point, gender-affirming surgery is necessary so that her physical identity can be aligned with her gender identity and so her gender dysphoria can be ameliorated. She believes that the only remedy for her persistent gender dysphoria and the serious harm it causes her is to receive gender-affirming surgery, specifically in orchiotomy, vaginoplasty. So you look at this whole thing, right? That's exactly the point I was making. It's the wishes of this person, this man. He's saying, I need this. There's no doctor who came in and said, I think this is what you need. This person is saying that I need this. This is what I need. And they are clearly not a mentally stable person. If you're going to strangle your 11-month-old stepdaughter, go to jail for that and look the way you look and be crazy and identify as a Muslim woman, yet the left just has their ideologies and they stick to it no matter what. And they will welcome anyone to the fray as long as they're a part of the sex coalition and everything that they are permitting there. We'll wrap up the article here. Cordialon has identified as a woman since 6 years old, the ACLU lawsuit claims, and the inmate is a woman trapped in a man's body. According to the court documents, Cordialon strangled his then wife's 11-month-old daughter to death while she was at work on September 12, 2001. During Cordialon's initial interview with one of the detectives, he was calm and unemotional when recounting what happened. In a separate lawsuit last year, Cordialon filed a civil lawsuit against the prison chaplain for allegedly prohibiting him from wearing a hijab outside his immediate bed quarters, despite identifying as a Muslim woman.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
So with that being said, I want to make a transition here to a Fox News clip, kind of a news report on this specific headline. And there's something interesting in the beginning dealing with Kamala Harris and going back to the radical Democratic agenda, ACLU. All of them are all wrapped up into a big bubble in a big organism machine that is called progressivism and the Democratic Party. Let's take a look at that.
There was a specific case, and when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving. So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need.
Looks like Kamala Harris's radical ideas spread to Indiana. An inmate in the state convicted of killing his 11-month-old stepdaughter in 2001 now wants you, the taxpayer, to foot the bill for his gender transition surgery, and a federal judge says the prison must provide it, but not if our next guest has his way.
Join us now, Indiana Attorney General, former class of 2010, member of Congress, classmate of mine, Todd Rokita. Todd, good to see you. I just had to throw that in there. Sorry about that. That wasn't in the teleprompter.
Great to see you, Sean.
Listen, this is. I mean, Dagan and I read the story. We're shocked that this surgery is going to have to be provided at taxpayer expense. Give us an update. What odds do you have of success in the courts of overturning this?
Well, if common sense has anything to do with it, we hope to prevail, and I think we will ultimately. These cases are bubble, Sean, and hi to you too, Dagan. Really appreciate your work. These cases are bubbling up all over the country because, unfortunately, you did great work showing what the Democrat presidential candidate is all about. It's this division and chaos that they sow, and this gender transition surgery is part of it. So I anticipate that whether it's this case or one just like it, you're going to have to see the U.S. Supreme Court finally make a decision, and the decision should be pretty easy. And as taxpayers, like has been said here in Indiana through their elected representatives, do not want to pay for these kinds of surgeries, and the science is not at all settled that this is a proper procedure or that not giving such a procedure amounts to cruel and unusual punishment. There's no question that this guy is messed up, from the crime, the horrible crime he committed, to the self-mutilation that he now does, that then portends, in the court's opinion, to allow him to have such a surgery. None of that is settled, and we shouldn't affirm that behavior. Yeah, he might need some therapy, but he doesn't need the taxpayers to be paying for this kind of surgery. And it's not just one surgery, it's through the rest of the man's life. There's several surgeries that will be needed. It'll cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in the end.
Well, there you have it, coming straight from Fox and Todd Rokita. And it's exactly the point that I made, and it's the point that needs to be made. I mean, this person is seriously mentally ill. And the point there, in the beginning, in 2019, I know that Kamala Harris is trying to memory hole every single thing that happened in 2019, 2018 to get rid of all her policies and every radical statement she ever made, prior to 2020 becoming the vice presidential nominee. But you just look at the way in which she spoke about these things. You really think that these things are going to change. She still is that's on her agenda. That's still her goal. Her objective is, the biggest thing is abortion, LGBTQ rights, transgenderism. And like you said, there is no data, no science to prove that this is cruel and unusual punishment, that this is anything other than a mental illness where this person, sure, they may need help in some shape, way, or form. In my personal view of life, my ideal situation is that these type of people, I believe most people share this opinion, most normal, rational people, that people like this aren't worthy to breathe the same air as everyday citizens. I think God's word speaks to that very clearly, talking through the different punishments and the different ways in which people should be dealt with. But to Jesus Christ himself says, whoever shall harm one of these little ones shall have a noose tied around his neck and a millstone thrown down to the bottom of a lake. The punishment for these things are severe, and even Jesus himself speaks of it in that light and in that manner. Now, with that being said, as a society, there was once upon a time in which we agreed that these people deserve to be punished. They deserve to experience, justice. And the idea that this person is going to have a gender reassignment surgery and still have justice served to them while still having all their needs met, having panties handed to them, having form-fitting clothes, having, gender reassignment, having their genitals chopped off, being able to wear, whatever they want. It's just ridiculous. This is not a club. This is not a fantasy parlor for someone like that. This is prison. This is somewhere where they should be punished and they should live out the rest of their days, and where they should rot for their, for their crime and for their sins. And, with that being said, we'll end with this, right? Kamala Harris and everything that she espouses, she's a part of a greater system. And that system has judges, that system has representatives, that system has all types of things. And she's just the face on that ugly monster. And that face has espoused true and important ideas. If there is, in a world, in my nightmare, if there is a Democratic majority in the House, there's a Democratic House and Senate, and a Kamala Harris presidency, everything that she espoused in 2019, 2020 is just a reflection of where the Democratic Party is heading. They are continuing to go further and further and further down Looney Town and further towards just crazy wickedness. And so the idea that, she still doesn't believe, and obviously if we could get a good interview, we could get some answers to these questions of whether or not she still believes these radical things, but I guarantee you she does. She has not changed one iota of what she believes. And this is what we can look forward to in the future, is our taxpayer dollars, hundreds of thousands of our dollars, going towards this useless garbage to give gender transition surgery to these wicked individuals. And so we need to be showing up to vote. We need to be doing everything we can to fight against just this wicked agenda and everything that it stands for. And, as far as I'm concerned, this person, I think it's fair to say that they have caught a break with the 55-year sentence. And I think they'll be just fine without having their genitals chopped off and without having, pills and hormones blocking and all that garbage. I think that is a very fair and gracious sentence, in my opinion. And shout out to the Attorney General for doing everything that he's doing. And we need to just continue to vote. This is why it's important to vote for your community, to be a part of your community. Because if we don't, the federal government and everything is going to decide for us that, no, it doesn't matter. You're going to pay for these reassignment surgeries.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.